Honestly, getting a little up close and personal with you guys today. Also, if Panda can show his feet on stream, then by God, I should be able to show my face on a video. So, anyways, guys, this is Luke over at Lukewarm Mining and Repair. So, if you don't know who I am, there's a little bit of background about me. I've been in the crypto mining space since about 2014. In and out of it. Back then, I was mostly just GPU mining. I had my water cooled RX, what are they, RX 280s, mining some Dogecoin and other stuff. Donated some of my Dogecoin to that whole NASCAR car thing. And been in and out of space, like I said, back in the Ethereum days and the big pump of that. I was mining then, also getting into a little bit of DFIN and DeFi. Outside of crypto, I worked in the electronics repair industry for about 7 years. I was a lead technician and a regional manager and trainer where I taught people how to fix iPhones, Samsungs, Google Pixels, MacBooks, laptops, desktops. I even fixed some crypto devices for people, a jukebox at one point. Basically, if it has an on and off button, I worked on it. If it has a circuit board, I did SMD repair, so HDMI ports, USB-C charging ports, all that jazz I basically did. So, and then after that, I got into the crypto space and doing content and stuff like that online. Wasn't something I initially really meant to do. I also, if you couldn't tell, like working on things. I like overclocking things. I ended up overclocking my KS0 Pro, and kind of the rest is history from there. It's just something that I picked up as a hobby and wanted to kind of take people along with me on it. So, anyways, why am I talking today? So, I talked with a couple other content creators. They told me they really kind of get engaged in other spaces and stuff that would help. So I started going on Reddit. One, because it wasn't really a platform or really outside of just doom scrolling. I wanted to see more of the crypto mining space and stuff, so I set up my own account over there. It's under the same name, Lukewarm. I think it's actually Lukewarm IQ. It's an older username that I had. Same on Twitter. And what I noticed is, especially in like the Bitcoin mining forum, ASIC mining, Dogecoin, GPU mining forum, there's a lot more people now coming in asking, how do I get started in mining? And I think a lot of people that have been in this space for a while are a little bit, downtrodden, a little bit upset at the fact that we're not really in altcoin season yet, and they're taking it out on little Timmy trying to get into mining. They're giving little snarky responses like Bitcoin mining is dead, GPU mining is dead. I understand it's a joke, and everyone's talking about it, and it's not exactly a joke. It's a little bit true, but they'll say like don't buy ASICs, and I don't think that's really helpful. A lot of people are coming into this space right now because there are a huge amount of changes that are being done, especially with the current administration, at least here in the U.S. They're very pro crypto. He's been very outward about it, about changing policies and stuff related to crypto, and just making it a healthier and better environment, which is going to, of course, bring in more and more investors. It's going to bring more and more people into the space as it becomes a lot less stigmatized, and becomes even more mainstream than it already is. So what today's video is for is not necessarily for you guys that are veterans that have been around for a minute. This is more for people getting into the space, or if you are a veteran, kind of getting an idea of how I decide what miners to buy and what things to get into. So anyways, this is going to be broken down into a couple different sections. I'll go ahead and bookmark them or timestamp them on the different topics that I cover. If you want to just throw me on the phone, toss me on the bed or on your speakers or something like that, listen to my wonderful voice, or be a Chad, give me that ad revenue and watch time. You can definitely do that. So anyways, the four things that I think matter the most when it comes to getting into crypto mining are your power cost, scale, cost of getting in, and also a risk versus reward when choosing what kind of hardware you use. That last one's a little bit touchy, and it's completely dependent on the person. But the first three, I think, are the simplest and easiest to break down. So we'll get right into it. So I think the first one is the easiest to tackle, and that is power costs. So a lot of arbitrary numbers kind of get thrown out there, but I wouldn't say they're necessarily exactly arbitrary. They're just easy numbers to kind of picture and understand. and then people say you need to have less than 10 cent per kilowatt power, or less than 15 cent, or less than 5 cent per power. It's entirely dependent on what machines you're running and a lot of other stuff, and also your revenue per kilowatt hour. And I think that is actually the most important number that almost seems to never get really touched on, because that is a direct correlation to how efficient a miner is. So for example, I have up on the screen right now is the Bitmain L9 17 gigahash. So this thing pulls 17 gigahash per second and pulls 3,570 watts from the wall. It's currently making $32.48 per day before electrical costs, and that's the number we really care about, because that's going to show us what our true revenue per kilowatt hour is. So we're going to go ahead and make this an easy number. As you can see, I have the calculator up on my screen. So we're looking at, $32 a day. What we're going to go ahead and do is divide that by these numbers combined. So we're going to take our 3,570 watts, which is our from the wall pull. We're going to divide that by 1,000, right? Because we want to convert that to kilowatts. We're going to times that by 24 because it's a day. And now we have 32 divided by that number. And it should equal out. And there you go. Currently, the L9 is making 37.3 cents per kilowatt hour that it burns. So that means at the maximum power cost of this miner is going to be 37 cents. So if you're paying 37 cents per kilowatt hour, one, you live in a terrible location for mining. But two, this L9 would be breaking even. So anything less than that is technically profitable. So even if you had 20 cent power, an L9 makes sense. Well, not exactly makes sense, but it'd still be profitable. So when we talk about making sense? So obviously crypto goes up and down constantly. So usually it's best to kind of dip to like the halfway mark of that, not maybe 2/3 mark. So you'd be looking at 20 cents, and below that, honestly, like everyone says, 10 cent. Why do they say 10 cents for a lot of stuff to get into crypto mining? Well, for example, you have stuff like the S21. So we'll do the S21 XP because that is the current model that is out. It's also air cooled, not liquid cooled. It's making $15.54 a day. So same thing. We're going to go over the calculator, run all these numbers back basically. So we're going to do 1554 divided by this thing pulls 3,645 watts. Not times, we want that. Oops, times 1. We're gonna just fix that. Ignore my bad math. Calculator doesn't let me back it up like it does on the phone. So we're gonna times this by 24, and we're gonna divide this all across, and it gives us 17.7 cents per kilowatt is what this generates. So like I said, 10 cents means that for every kilowatt this is burning, you will be making around 7 cents. So that's why that number of 10 cents comes around a lot. Another place you can check for this stuff is hashrate.no. It's not my favorite to use. Mining Now and What to Mine are typically more accurate and more up to date, but something that this does show, if you go and select a specific GPU, like a 4090 for example, will show you what the revenue per kilowatt hour here is. So if it shows you how dead GPU mining is, a 4090 on a Leo is making 13 cents per kilowatt hour burnt on revenue. So unless you have less than 10 cent power, you're not, or the 13 cent power, you're not really making money. So that's why a big thing for most crypto mining is power cost. And like, don't even get me started when it comes to stuff like older ASICs. For example, let's say an S19J Pro. These things are fantastic. Things are absolutely killer. They make a pretty good amount of money for their cost, but their biggest limiting factor is the power cost. If you have less than 5 cent, 4 cent, 3 cent power, that's what all these big guys have. All these guys that, Marathon Digital or Riot's paying 3.5 cents per kilowatt. Those guys are making an absolute killing because the revenue is 9 cents per kilowatt hour. They're making 6 cents for every kilowatt hour. These things pull 3,000 watts if you tune them down with like Venus or with anything like why am I blanking on the big one? Brains. You can make these even more efficient and yield a good amount. For these things can be bought for like $300 to $500, and that kind of rolls into the next part, which is scale. So what do I mean by scale? Not everyone has a huge multi-megawatt facility. Not everyone has a shed in their backyard with a separate service. Not everyone has a 400 amp service panel, even a 200 amp service power. Some people are in an apartment or in another space where they only have 110 sockets. And so what I mean by scale is how much power you can dedicate to mining. Some people might only have, two 20 amp circuits that are 110. Those guys should be only looking to home miners. Some people have an electric car charger port in their garage that they're going to use for this, and so that might be a 30 to 50 amp circuit, so they might have 6 to 10 kilowatts. For me, for example, I am limited by the cable that is ran underground to my house. It is only 200 amp capable and barely 200 amp capable. They said if it had been an extra 100 feet longer or 50 feet longer, it would not have made the spec. They would not let me upgrade my panel from the 150 to the 200. So at 200 amps, that's a 44 kilowatt technically capable service. You wouldn't ever run it at that kind of amount. You'd be more towards like 35 and 34 kilowatts and below. But then I also have an electric car that I need to charge every once in a while. So basically I have to turn off my miners whenever I charge my car. I also have the rest of the house, the AC they run and stuff like that. So I'm realistically only anywhere between 10 and 20 kilowatt capable here. So for me, maximizing the amount of revenue that I make per kilowatt matters the most. So that's what I mean by scale. So scale also determines a lot of things when it comes to power costs. Like I said, all this stuff kind of rolls together. For example, an S19J Pro right now. Let's just say you had 10-cent power, because we're going to consider that the median power cost in the US, I think it's actually like 12 cents. These things are not profitable, right? They don't make any money. But if you drop down to something like, 5 cents, 4 cents even, let's do 4 cents. These things are making $4.16 a day, but they're burning 3,500 watts of electricity. So let's just say that we can do 12 kilowatts. That's 4 machines. You're making $16.63. Now you can buy these things used for pretty cheap. But now let's go to something like, I don't know, something bigger, like the S21 XP. And let's go back up to 10 cents. These things are making $10 a day at that rate, but they cost $7,000 for the machine. But again, at 3,600 watts, probably run 3 of these things. And this is why I say all the topics kind of merge into each other on there. So you're limited by scale here. And then again, to go back to the other example that I had with the S19J Pro, if it's a scale thing and we're looking at total cost altogether, that's why I said, again, for like the 5th and final time, all this stuff kind of melds together. And that's 19J Pro. Sorry. J Pro. Let's just say you're not limited on cost. Your power cost is 4 cents, right? But you're not limited on power. And you can buy each one of these things for $500, and we want to get to 15,000, right? That's 30 machines, because power is no limit. I mean, shoot, man, you're pulling 91 kilowatts, but you're making $124 a day for that $15,000 investment. You'll ROI in less than, basically less than 4 months. So, again, that's how all this stuff ties together. But if you're like me and you have expensive power, the best thing to do is to maximize that, again, that revenue per kilowatt hour. So again, L9. Look at that, baby. But this price is correct. You're looking at $13,500 for it. So If you're trying to maximize the scale that you can have at home, if you have an unlimited amount of power and it's cheap, go with the cheapest miners you can buy that you're still turning a decent enough profit on. If you don't have a ton of power, it is best to maximize your revenue per kilowatt. So something I've already touched a ton on already is cost. So cost related to buying the miners, setting up the infrastructure, stuff like that. It's all kind of, I hate to say the word 100 times. I'm going to probably put a tally mark on there for how many times I say arbitrary. But it is, because it depends on where you are in the world, what you're looking to do, and what you're willing to get done. So for example, if you're in an apartment, you can't do a lot of work. You should only be looking to running 110 miners, maybe stuff with Wi-Fi enabled on them. Or if you don't care about Ethernet cables being taped to the ceiling, because we've all been there and done that, or on the floor with some duct tape over the top of it, then sure, do that. If you're something in like your own residence and stuff like that, and you're going to get 220 pulled to the garage, sick, means that your house is now EV car charger ready, but you're also now going to have the availability to run miners and stuff in there. And it doesn't matter if your budget's $1,000 to a couple grand to 20,000 to 100,000 to $1 million. These are all costs that you have to kind of figure into there, and also comes back to again the revenue per kilowatt. If you have $100,000 but you don't have a ton of power to use, then you should definitely be buying L9s. Or if you have a ton of money and you want none of the hassle, send it over to a hosting facility like I mentioned before. Shoot, man, you got 100 grand, you can buy a good amount of L9s, 8 L9s, shoot them over there, they'll host it, they'll clean them out, they'll make sure they run good. If there's something that goes down for basic repair, they can do it there. They'll just charge you the part costs and it's done. Easy peasy. There's different situations for everyone. Some people don't trust people hosting, so people want to run them at home, but you need to keep into account all of the cost of doing everything. And same with GPUs. So especially with like 90 series are very profitable when you're not mining with them. If you have them on any of the AI platforms, they're making a good amount of money. Some of the 4090s and stuff are making 10 to 20 to 30 cents a day, or not a day, sorry, an hour. But the cost of getting in is really, really high, especially now with the 5090s being on really, really high demand and low quantities, and so it's driving the 3090 and 4090 prices up specifically for this reason. Same thing with like the L9. The L9 costs $12,000 right now. The S21 XP is $7,000. You can see it right there. Like I said, we'll pull up the L9 right now. L9. 17 gig cache. We're looking at 12,525. That is all in. That is shipped, insurance, all that jazz. Shameless self plug. TheraHashes has given me like a discount code, so I do get, and anyone that uses it gets 1% off. It's lukewarm, enough self plug and shilling, I guess. But what I'm saying is that for $12,525, you can buy an L9, but not everyone has a budget to buy one of those. And again, it rolls into everything. How much power do you have? What kind of infrastructure do you have? Are you willing to go get it hosted or not? And all that kind of stuff. So, all things considered, have a set amount of money that you want to spend, and also calculate in what you need to be making at least revenue per kilowatt hour for it to make sense for you. So I think my last one is definitely going to be my most controversial one, which is going to be risk versus reward. Now this one, like I said, is definitely kind of more of an opinion than anything. There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. There's so many different ways to break down what I mean by risk versus reward, or what you consider risk versus reward. So, I mean, you could do riskiest profitability wise to riskiest hardware wise. And funny enough, they're kind of inverses of themselves. So for example, without breaking it down too much, the differences between GPU, CPU, ASIC, and FPGA mining is basically on that scale. GPU mining is terrible right now. It's really just there for spec mining. So if a new coin comes out, a lot of these GPU miners will shoot over to it and mine up as much as they can before it hits the market. And when it hits the market, they hope the price either shoots up like crazy or starts taking off if they've been on a coin for a while, and the altcoin season and all that jazz. And they hope the coin shoots up, but it's a speculative play, spec mining. Um, the other good thing about GPU mining is the hardware resale, for the most part, unless you're buying mining specific cards, is pretty good. Look at 4090s. I mean, as of like a couple months ago, you could still get them for 12 to 1400 bucks and knew they were still 1900 bucks. Now they're over $2,000 again, like we're at the initial 4090 release again. And 3090s are 950 bucks to 1,000 bucks. And I kid you not, 2 months ago when I was looking at maybe buying some, they were $600 a card, if not less. So this shows you that how much of an impact AI and stuff has in there. And that's something else I was going to bring up. When GPU side of things, where again it's the risk versus reward thing, or hardware cost basically versus that. Buying 90 series cards is probably the best bet as of today, because you can put them on AI sites like Vast AI, stuff like that. Like I'll pull it up for you guys right now on Vast AI. Shoot, if you have, let's just say a 5090 or a 4090 or even a 3090. I mean, a 3090 is making 17 cents an hour. If you go and look at something that's like unverified, so these are machines that are up that are not verified, so that means is they haven't been verified by the platform. I mean, it's a little bit lower. You're looking like $1.60 a day, but you're doing better than most of them. Once you get verified, it goes up a ton. And obviously, the more GPUs you have, the more it scales. So like 8 3090s, you're looking at, almost $20 a day. If you go and if your machine gets it verified, you're looking at like $1.39. And this is 3090s. If we get rid of 3090s and you go something newer, like a 40 series, if you're lucky and you have a 49 or something like that, I mean, shoot. I mean, people are getting $2.14 an hour for these things. That's insane. They're making almost 50 bucks a day or more. And a lot of these AI workloads, well, I mean, look at this, $1,900 a month off of 8 4090s. A lot of these AI workload guys will sit and the GPUs will idle for quite a while, and then they'll have a huge spike and then they'll idle. So on power cost wise, these are actually usually pretty low. But anyways, getting a little bit off topic here, but that's GPU mining. ASIC mining is also the same thing. It's only going to mine a specific algorithm, so the risk is there. The profitability is high on them, and the price, as you saw on the ones that are usually consistent. So for example, the L7, as long as you've had less than 10 cents per kilowatt power, has been in profit, and the L9 will probably follow the same thing. Those are less risky ASICs, but say Dogecoin goes to zero or somehow Bitcoin drops a huge amount in value, those ASIC miners are worthless. If they break or they stop working or they go unprofitable, there's not really any kind of resale on them. So that's where I say it's a risk versus reward thing. GPUs and CPUs are going to be the least risky when it comes to being able to resell it, but also usually the riskiest when it comes to profitability. Sticking them on a coin and hoping it goes up is not the best. Whereas an ASIC, though they do have altcoin ASICs like the AL3 that were really profitable, but something I will always say is a key indicator is if the miner is cheap versus the profitability, and they're pitching it as, ROI is in 100 days or 200 days, most ASICs should ROI around a year to 2 years out. Not that quick. So, just a little word of advice there. Especially on I gotten a couple inquiries about the AE0. Do what you want. That thing's going to be making $2 a day in less than a month and a half. Not a guarantee, but unless the Leo has a huge pump and how many machines Ice River and those guys are typically releasing, just probably stay away from them. Anyways, so I hope I clarified it a little bit in this video on how to get started in crypto mining, and should you get started in crypto mining. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. Hit me up in my Discord, on Twitter, on Reddit, or shoot me an email. It's just lukewarmmining@gmail.com. If you want to do something more personal, do a one-on-one on Discord or something like that. I always have those open, so you can reach out to me there and say you want to set one up, and we'll go from there. So anyway, guys, hope you guys have a great weekend. This was a really long-winded video. Y'all take care.